G'day, friends and fans, and welcome to Writing Corner. I'm your host, the author, David Applegate, author of the book, The Boyhood of K, book one of the Empire of Elves. This is my writing journey. I seek to bring to you my knowledge and experience as I learn it, as I seek to improve my writing. I hope to pass everything on as I do. I appreciate your attendance and attention. So, the topic today is know your audience. And that, of course, involves engagement. In the past, knowing your audience was fairly simple, actually. You would be following the footsteps of writers before you, tragedy, comedy, and romance, of course, which usually as it branched out, action, adventure, etc. Tropes, more and more tropes are established. So really, there's a conflict, if you haven't already noticed, between knowing your audience and writing for yourself. You start with what you know and what you love. You write for yourself. And hopefully along the way, you get feedback from your beta readers, friends, family. And as you normally you would get feedback from the publisher and you would alter the tone of your writing. But the problem is often the feedback comes from a minority, and it's hard to say, right, you release a product, it doesn't work, you alter it, it doesn't work, you know. So knowing your audience is just one of those difficult pieces of advice that's often thrown out there. But trust me, you have to know your audience. You have to know what they need and what's in your niche within your um what would you call it, uh genre, I suppose. Now, according to many experts on creative writing, knowing your audience is one of the most important aspects of effective writing. But see, a lot of this comes from formal writing, the writing of reports, blogs, marketing, where it may be with creative writing, it's less clear who your target audience is and who you're trying to reach. And of course, it comes down to key elements of what you're writing about. Knowing what trends, what the different genres is popular. But of course, what about trendsetters? Well, they build on what exists. So it's it is a conflict. It's an old adage that writers should know their audience, but it's also an old adage that you should write what you know and be comfortable and write to your own style. As I said, with why I don't listen to Stephen King. So I'm not trying to be contradictory here. I'm just saying when it comes to genres, um, define your style, just learn your audience, engage your audience, get to know them, this is what I'm trying to do. This is why I do this. I get to know what they like. It's true. Sometimes the best work out there have been freewheeling freewheeling before Dune. What was there? Uh, Dune went against the idea of charismatic leaders being the good guy. See, write knowing your audience is also is a way of writing that is enjoyable and memorable. You've got to take your readers into consideration. So the language should be as general as possible. Slang, jargon. You may have to do a build up to it or some sort of explanation. Have a third party, an outsider, who goes, huh? One of the reasons why best-selling books like fail to transfer the movies is because the audience doesn't follow and the general audience doesn't pick up on the slang and tunes out. Now, in business and academics, it's much easier to know your audience. You don't write a business letter peppered with internet shorthand or slang or use casual language. So really, write what you love, write what you know, stick to your style, but knowing your audience is about your language. General English. Try to stick to, if you're multi-genres, you still have to stick to the genre. You try to stick to your genre, even if you're multi-genre, like, don't think a romance, a sci-fi romance will appeal to all sci-fi readers, or sci-fi fantasy will appeal to all Star Wars fans, because it doesn't. It's just the way people are. Does that mean you should allow your work to be influenced by its intended readers? Does the point of view of the audience matter? And who is the audience anyway? Particularly when fiction writing, the audience, well, it's about goals. You don't write a children's book with adult language, and you try not to write a creative writing as a business report. Try to have specific goals in mind and know that your goals are not set in stone. Whether you write for the sheer joy and the love of writing, try to have some flexibility. Allow for feedback from the audience to be considered and be open-minded. Like, don't break canon, don't retcon your own work. Those sort of things. Don't subvert the audience expectations. If you're building up a villain as a tragic backstory, don't make it a super twist. Look at M. Night Shyamalan. His twists are all hit and miss. He'll always be a B grade. He'll never, because he's not consistent, and he's twists, and all he does is twist for the sake of twists. But if you're comfortable with that, that's fine. But pay attention to your language and make sure it's appropriate to the language of your target audience, and understand that characters, themes, and plot points, basically, the tropes you're using, are suitable for the target audience. Now, it's not like saying identify a racial group, an age group, and this is the problem with generalized advice. Saying to somebody, "Oh yes, know your audience," and the problem is that person is often carrying a bookload of wisdom from their 20, 30, 40 years as a writer of knowing their audience, and they're boiling it down to a simple statement. So I'm trying to take all these simple writing advices that are just basically talking points, right? Know your audience, right? What does it actually mean? It's not as simple as it sounds. It's knowing the the language, the tropes, your writing style. Just make sure that, you know, and unfortunately, a lot of books these days, they are very concise, very businesslike, they lack detail, and some of them are almost pure dialogue. It's sad because too many people take the the first headline, know your audience, and that's all they do. They read a couple of books that have made number one, and they copy that style. They don't have their own style, and they'll get 3 to 4 books out, and then it's like drops off. They might, or you get some people who churn out 20, 50 books, and they'll cruise along. No. The benefits and why you do it. You need to decide. If you're publishing your book, you want to make a living, you have to entertain your audience. You have to know what entertains, you have to know what the characters they love, the storylines they love. I mean, there's no point, right, if you have a popular character and you kill them off because you don't like them. I'm sorry, but it's a give and take. And if you're trying to get published, publishers and agents won't work with you if you won't work with the audience feedback they get, and you're not flexible. I mean, if you want to be totally independent, then yes. If you want to, I mean, there's poetry, there's markets for dozens of styles of different poetry. There's hundreds of different audiences out there for different writing styles. But the factor in where it comes down to, do you want to be self-published or published? And if you want to be published, you can't be as flexible or as freestyle as a independently published. But the good news is, we've been self-published. You don't have to be. You write for a general audience. Writing tips are not absolute. You're more flexible. You're not beholden to, and you're allowing your audience to grow, to appreciate you as an individual artist. Whereas it's like music labels. A lot of people in the 50s, 60s, 70s, they grew up with the music labels. So, people who listen to Motown, they just go into their music store, go straight to the Motown section or jazz or whatever. But as more and more artists, it became down to liking individual artists rather than going going to a music store and going to that one section that was rock or jazz or country, because they were all the same. It didn't matter who you listened to. It was the style that people liked. Now it's more and more individualized. And so don't take writing tips, especially headlines such as knowing your audience, as an absolute. It's a balancing act. Know the tropes your audience like, and as you're writing, the feedback, some people say, I liked this, but I didn't like this, and just understand that sometimes you'll get one person not liking something. Don't change it just because only 1 or 2 people. Don't always change. It's a balancing act, and only you. I know it's a lot of luck, but that's what it comes down to. Sometimes it is luck. But I think as more and more writers, more and more readers, hopefully, will come to appreciate the individuality of the author, especially with AI. Believe it or not, that's what AI does. It churns out more of the same. It takes the most popular and just rewrites it. It's just more of the same. And for right now, yes, more of the same is slowing down. as you can see. I know this is a hard writing tip to comprehend, and it's taken me a lot of thinking to try and put this together. That you're basically, it boils down to write what you know, write what you love, know that, and just know that your style has to be adjusted just a little bit so that you fit the general spoken English. Try to avoid jargon. Try to avoid cut and dry conversations. Try to be at least a little descriptive. Don't know the tropes, and you don't have to have every character nuanced. You can have, but just try not to use every character out of this same, 5-man band. You go to the tropes, you'll see what I mean. 5-man band, command crew, the squad. It's just then a matter of having a good story and accepting the fact that 99.99% of all writers, no matter how good they are not going to get published. They're not going to sell more 1 million copies. It's just the way the world is. It's just unfortunate. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to tell you they have the winning formula. They can get you this pay to win gatekeeping. That's just the way it is. It's like I can't. There's no writing tip that I know that's going to say, yes, you wrote a better book than Stephen King, therefore you should replace Stephen King. No, the audience is comfortable with him. He has had no competition for a long time. And that's just the way it is. It's like Star Wars, as well as it's like Marvel and DC. It's even Harry Potter, as much as the majority don't like any of them, and you can see, look, out of billions of people, but that's just the way it is, and I think it comes down to every time I do one of these videos, I should say, just don't give up. Okay? Don't listen to Stephen King. That's probably one of my best videos. Go back and look at it, and then look at this one. If this one's still confusing, I'll answer questions, try to explain it. But I should have know your audience is what you're going to hear often, but it's not an absolute. No writing tip is an absolute. This is a guide to just getting you to wake up and get to know what your audience likes about you, and keep that in mind each and every story. They may not like each and every story, but if you give up, you'll never know if they like the next book or not. And I think eventually, this is actually something that I'm going to be looking at. I think there's going to be more and more, what do you call it? People wanting to see your material before they buy. So I don't think, I'm not talking about previews. I mean, yeah, I think, yeah, going to be looking at different marketing and stuff. And I just got so many different things that I'm trying to sort right now. But I appreciate your feedback, and please consider supporting the channel. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, please support the channel. Check out my links in the description below. Buy my book. I really need your help. Subscribe to my Patreon. Thank you for listening. I'll see you all in the next video.